Live from New Delhi, you're watching DDI India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour, India's President Draupadi Murmu says the pledge to reform has made India the fastest growing economy in the world. Stresses today's Bharat is solution oriented. Addresses joint sitting of both houses of parliament. Peace returns to Bolivian capital La Paz after coup attempt fails. Government says army under control. Rebel army general arrested. European Union and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky are expected to sign a security agreement at the EU Council meeting in Brussels. In T20 World Cup 2024, unbeaten India will take on reigning champions England to book final berth. South Africa halt Afghanistan's dream by 9 wickets to enter maiden final. India's President Draupadi Murmu addressed the joint sitting of Parliament and congratulated all newly elected MPs. She said that the country created several records in the general elections 2024 and the entire world is talking about it. President Murmu highlighted the successful conduct of elections in Jammu and Kashmir, saying Kashmir witnessed low voting amid shutdowns and strikes in the last 4 decades. But this time, Kashmir Valley gave a befitting reply to India's enemies with record voter turnout.
इस बार भी महिलाओं ने बढ़ चढ़कर मतदान में हिस्सा लिया है। इस चुनाव की बहुत सुखद तस्वीर जम्मू कश्मीर में भी सामने आए हैं। कश्मीर घाटी में वोटिंग के अनेक दशकों के रिकॉर्ड टूटे हैं। बीते 4 दशकों में कश्मीर में हमने बंद और हड़ताल के बीच कम मतदान का दौर ही देखा था। भारत के दुश्मन इसको वैश्विक मंचों पर जम्मू कश्मीर की राय के रूप में दुष्प्रचारित करते रहे। लेकिन इस बार कश्मीर घाटी ने देश और दुनिया में ऐसे हार ताकत को करारा जवाब दिया है।
In her address, the President said the new government is going to present its first general budget in the coming Parliament session, which will be an effective document of its far-reaching policies and futuristic vision, and reforms will be fast-tracked.
आगामी सत्र में मेरी सरकार अपने इस कार्यकाल का पहला बजट पेश करने जा रही है। ये बजट सरकार की दूरगामी नीतियों और फ्यूचरिस्टिक विजन का एक प्रभावी दस्तावेज होगा। इस बजट में बड़े आर्थिक और सामाजिक निर्णयों के साथ ही अनेक ऐतिहासिक कदम भी देखने को मिलेंगे।
President Murmu noted that in 10 years, the country has risen from 11th position to become the 5th largest economy. She said that India achieved this feat despite a pandemic and conflicts in different parts of the world. She also asserted that the government is striving to make India the 3rd largest economy in the world.
माननीय सदस्यगण, रिफॉर्म, परफॉर्म और ट्रांसफॉर्म के संकल्प ने आज भारत को दुनिया की सबसे तेजी से बढ़ने वाली अर्थव्यवस्था बना दिया है। 10 साल में भारत 11वें नंबर की अर्थव्यवस्था से ऊपर उठकर 5वें नंबर पर पहुंचा है। साल 2021 से लेकर साल 2024 के बीच भारत में औसतन 8% की रफ्तार से विकास किया है और ये ग्रोथ सामान्य समय में नहीं हुई है। बीती वर्षों में हमने 100 साल की सबसे बड़ी आपात देखी। वैश्विक महामारी के कालखंड और विश्व के अलग अलग कोने में चल रही संघर्षों के बावजूद भारत ने ये विकास दर हासिल की है। ये बीते 2 साल के रिफॉर्म्स और राष्ट्रहित में के लिए किए गए फैसला के कारण संभव है। आज भारत अकेले ही दुनिया की ग्रोथ में 15% का योगदान दे रही है। अब मेरी सरकार भारत को विश्व की 3रे नंबर की इकोनॉमी बनाने में जुटी हुई है।
All right, and DD India correspondent Dibendu Mondal joins us to give us more information on this from New Delhi. Hello, Dibendu. President Draupadi Murmu addressed the joint sitting of Parliament. She, in fact, congratulated all the newly elected MPs and lauded the Election Commission for successfully conducted the 2024 Lok Sabha elections and talked about achievements of the government as well. What are you getting for us?
Well, Siddharth, that's right. We had the inaugural address of the President of India addressing the joint session of Parliament this morning. Of course, she congratulated all the newly elected Member of Parliament in the recently concluded elections of 2024. Apart from that, as you were also saying, that the President also congratulated the Election Commission of India for conducting an election of a mammoth size of that of India.
Dibendu, could you be a little loud?
And also, the election. The President of India did also congratulate all the members of Parliament. The Election Commission also, the President of India, while addressing the joint session, did also talk about the achievements of the Modi 2.0 government. She also spoke about the vision with which the government will be working for the next 5 years. So, of course, these are some of the key aspects and highlights of the President's speech, but also the President highlighted about, the emergency period which created an uproar in Parliament. Yesterday also, Speaker Om Birla did talk about the emergency, the dark period of emergency, which attracted, uproar from the opposition benches within the Parliament. So, of course, she did talk about how the budget session will outlay the government's vision and plan for the next 5 years. And she also spoke about how the government is working towards the 4 pillars for farmers, for the upliftment of poverty and for the welfare of the poor and the women and marginalized section of society. So these are some of the key highlights of the speech of the President.
All right, thank you so much, Dibendu, for all those details. And we also have Mr. Praful Keir, who is joining us on the broadcast. He's editor, organizer. Sir, first of all, thank you so much for sparing out your valuable time and joining in on the broadcast. Let's begin with the Honorable President. She said regarding the government and India's stature on the global stage, India's human-centric approach, she said, the country is a loud voice of global south. How do you see this?
See, if we see the Honorable President's speech in entirety, then we get a clear-cut picture about the way narratives about Indian democracy has been spread and how Indian voters, like for example, she mentioned clearly about Jammu Kashmir.
Correct.
And Jammu Kashmir's voter and the rise of voting in Jammu Kashmir. Mm-hmm. So the goal of Vishwa Bandhu Bharat, the goal of Green India. Now, therefore, the point that you have raised, that when we are talking about the Bharat India being the voice of the global South, it has a natural leadership because it is not India that is claiming that leadership. It is the South that believes that, we represent those sentiments. So India, on the one hand, is representing global South sentiments in G7 and G20 like forums, and at the same time helping out the countries of Asia and Africa to come together and formulate joint policies, whether related to trade, whether related to agriculture, whether related to healthcare and wellness. So it clearly shows that, one important point that I realize while listening to the speech,
Yeah.
it clearly showed that when it comes to the infrastructure development, net zero goals. So the green future seems to be the major policy focus of this government for the next 5 years. And it will be very interesting in the next budget how far government is taking steps to ensure that whatever development is taking place, it is into the net zero direction.
Okay, sir, while lauding the government, President Murmu said that from Nari Shakti Vandan Act to My Youth India, My Bharat campaign, to increase participation of youth in nation building, to launching of Nalanda University, to building of 3.8 lakh kilometers rural roads under PM Gramin Sadak Yojana to connect villages. The list is very long. The government has taken care of people of India, in every sector.
See, being such a diverse country, it is not just about delivering, things on the ground. The point here is, of course, Honorable President has mentioned about the achievements of last 10 years and the way we have faced the challenge of global pandemic, the biggest one in last 100 years. But at the same time, how those initiatives have been inclusive enough. Like, for example, she spoke about the reforms in the banking sector. She talked about the way cooperative sector and cooperative financing has been improved. Cooperative storage system has been improved. At the same time, you spoke about women, youth, rural infrastructure, agriculture, and farmers, and of course, tribal. President herself talking about Janajatiya Gaurav Divas and inclusion of tribal development and tribal rights in the policy making process is a very important message, I believe, because we have seen, during the election campaign that there was an attempt to create or build a narrative that, as if the government policies have been against either scheduled caste or scheduled tribes. And globally, there are many forces who would like to peddle these kind of narratives where the government policies. But the fact is, when it comes to the government policies, they are more and more inclusive. They are trying to touch each and every social sector, and therefore, Honorable President not just underscored this fact, but also mentioned that this is going to be the major focus.
Yeah, correct.
This is going to be the driving force, because ultimately, development of each section. Similarly, she mentioned one interesting thing.
Yeah.
She said ours is her government's, as generally spoken in the parliamentary democracy, our government's focus is the competitive cooperative federalism. So again, one narrative that was built up, that is somewhere between the central government or union government versus the states, where she said we believe that development of each state, investment in each state is development of India and investment in India. So all states coming together, competing with each other, cooperating with each other, and attracting investment and ensuring development, that will ultimately lead to India's development. So there is a clear-cut, vision of the government that is expressed in Honorable President's address.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in and for your kind inputs and for this wonderful conversation. Thank you so much. Now, proceedings of the upper house of the parliament began today. Vice President and Rajya Sabha Chairman Jagdeep Dhankar informed to the House the appointment of Union Minister and BJP MP Jagat Prakash Nadda as the leader of the House. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday introduced his Council of Ministers in Rajya Sabha. The Prime Minister had introduced his Council of Ministers in Lower House on Wednesday after election of the Speaker. And still to come on DD News Hour. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump to meet on a debate stage on Thursday. A passenger train derails in Russia's far northern Komi region. North Korea successfully conducts an important test aimed at developing missiles carrying multiple warheads.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Bolivian government said army under control after coup attempt. Defense Minister Edmundo Novello also assured the nation on Wednesday that those responsible for the attempted coup will face justice. A restive calm returned to the central Plaza Murillo Square in La Paz after the Bolivian armed forces pulled back from the presidential palace and a general was arrested. Tensions have been building in Bolivia ahead of general elections in 2025 with severe economic crisis as two political parties battle for control of the ruling party.
Those responsible will have to face all the consequences, both in civilian justice and also in the realm of military justice. In that regard, I want to inform the Bolivian people about what has happened between yesterday and today with our armed forces, of which I am in command as a minister. It is due to some bad soldiers. It is a disgrace and a dark stain.
Para nuestras Fuerzas Armadas.
And the European Union is expected to sign a security agreement with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday, pledging to keep delivering weapons, military training and other aid to Kiev. The agreement will lay out the EU's commitment to help Ukraine in areas of security and defense policy. The pact is expected to be signed at a summit of EU leaders in Brussels. Countries including the United States, Britain, France and Germany have sealed security pacts with Kiev. The draft EU document says its commitments will remain in effect as Ukraine pursues its European path. All right, and DD India correspondent Alex Kadia is joining us from Brussels. Alex, EU leaders gather for summit in Brussels. What's on the agenda?
Well, certainly it's going to be a very packed agenda and very fluid agenda. Not all the points have been agreed yet by all the leaders. We know that, of course, crucially, the top jobs of the European Union need to be signed off by the EU leaders at this summit. That means Ursula von der Leyen's second term as the Commission President, bringing in the Portuguese Prime Minister Antonio Costa as the Council President, Kaja Kallas as the top diplomat from the EU, that Estonian Prime Minister, and keeping Roberta Metsola at the presidency of the European Parliament. All of these things to be debated by the leaders. We also know that defense will be very high up on the agenda, that security agreement with Ukraine that you just mentioned, which we'll speak about more in a moment. The Baltic states on the eastern front of the European Union calling for a defensive line on the border with Russia, all to be discussed because this meeting is really a moment for the leaders to set the European Union's strategic direction for the coming years.
Okay, Alex, now EU is expected to sign a security agreement with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. What details do you have regarding this?
Well, it'll be a 10-year lock-in of military support. That's what we understand from EU officials speaking to us behind the scenes. Now, there isn't any number particularly put on the amount of military support that the Ukrainians will receive from the European Union, but it is very much a political commitment, a statement of intent by the EU to say they will continue the current levels of support for Ukraine at least for the next 10 years, certainly while Ukraine continues on the path to accession and to membership of the European Union. So a very significant moment. President Zelensky will be in Brussels to sign this security cooperation agreement with his European partners.
All right, thanks for your analysis. Well, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Labour leader Keir Starmer clashed repeatedly in their last head-to-head debate of the election campaign due next Thursday. The debate was mainly focused over election betting, Partygate, taxation, benefits and immigration. Sunak repeatedly urged viewers not to surrender public policy to the Labour Party, while Starmer accused Sunak of being out of touch. Both launched highly personal attacks over their and their party's credibility too.
Last week in the Gambling Commission, we saw Partygate. Earlier in this Parliament, the Prime Minister himself was convicted and fined for breaking the rules which he brought in and imposed on everybody else. And of course, we've seen what happened with the COVID contracts and the huge amounts of money that were made. This takes leadership. What I did when one of my team was alleged to have been involved and investigated by the Gambling Commission, they were suspended within minutes.
We had an independent internal inquiry into what happened, have taken action and suspended the candidates involved, and I've been crystal clear that they should face the full consequences of the law. But Keir Starmer talks about leadership in politics. I also think leadership means being straight with people. It means having the courage of your convictions, not changing your mind on every single position that you've taken.
Let's now take a look back at the big moments from the UK campaign trail so far before the elections on July 4th. DD India's Oli Barrett reports from London.
Well, this is an election campaign which in recent days has been very much dominated by allegations of a betting scandal in British politics, claims that some candidates and party officials and even police officials too have been making bets on either the date of the general election before it was called or indeed some of the elements of the results of the election. That's led to all sorts of questions for party leaders about whether politics and betting need to be more regulated, whether they need to be clearer rules for politicians about what they can or can't, should or shouldn't be placing bets on. And that has just rather overshadowed a lot of the talk around policy in recent days. The Conservatives would much rather be making claims about taxation and warning against the dangers of a Labour administration. The Labour Party would much rather probably be making arguments around the economic mismanagement, for example, that they say the Conservatives have been guilty of, and the need for change in the country that they say is so required after 14 years of Conservative Party rule. But that betting scandal has dominated a lot of the conversation. The Conservatives have also struggled during this election campaign with the rise of the right of centre Reform UK party led by Nigel Farage. One interesting thing to watch out for after the votes start being counted on July the 4th into July the 5th is whether a Reform UK vote share nationwide that could be up around 10, 15, 20%, whether that actually translates into many seats at Westminster for MPs under Britain's first past the post system. The Labour Party is way out in front of the Conservatives according to all of the polling that we have been seeing recently, and so that does suggest that Keir Starmer, the Labour leader, is likely to be the next Prime Minister after 14 years in one form or another of Conservative Party rule. But Rishi Sunak and his Conservative Party say, despite their warnings of the dangers of a large Labour majority, they say they are not yet giving up with a week to go. Oli Barrett in London reporting for DD India.
France's left-wing parties have united in the country's upcoming parliamentary election in an effort to block the far right's path to power. Running under the newly found coalition New Popular Front, the parties are consistently polling second only to the far-right National Rally and ahead of President Emmanuel Macron's current majority party. One of the left's main figures is Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who is regarded as one of the front-runners for the post. Former French President François Hollande from the Socialist Party has also put his bid in the game. Earlier, France's government ordered the dissolution of extreme right and radical Muslim groups 4 days before the first round of legislative elections. The French election will take place in 2 rounds, with the first on June 30th and the final vote on July 7th. In the United States, President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump will meet on a debate stage on Thursday for the first of 2 televised face-offs. The debate could prove critical in their tight rematch race to win the White House in November. More than 4 months ahead of November 5 vote, the debate will be the earliest presidential debate in modern U.S. history. Biden's campaign is hoping to talk about abortion and Trump's about immigration, but debate moderators will decide the questions. Topics may include how the candidates would handle challenges posed by persistently high grocery prices, migrants on the US-Mexico border, and the ongoing Israel-Hamas and Russia-Ukraine conflicts. You can watch the debate live at 1:00 GMT, which is 6:30 IST on Friday. And let's go to Kenya now, where Kenyan police put up roadblocks on streets leading to the presidential palace on Thursday as the country braces for fresh protests. The anger over the tax hikes has led to the most serious crisis in Ruto's 2-year presidency, with especially young people taking to the streets in protests even after President William Ruto backed down on planned tax hikes in face of public outrage. And DD India's Isabel Nakiria reports from Kampala.
Kenyan President William Ruto has conceded to demands of young people and repealed the finance bill that seeks to raise taxes on basic commodities like bread, cooking oil and fuel. The bill has now been returned to Parliament for reconsideration. Thousands came out to protest the tax increments, resulting in loss of lives and destruction of property. Kenya is sitting on a staggering $80 billion bill pile, and lawmakers were hoping to use these new taxes to pay that down. But after the public backlash, Mr. Ruto has now directed austerity measures to cut down public expenditures by reducing the purchase of public vehicles, travel and renovations. The measures will affect the office of the president and other government departments. The Kenyan leader says he will meet with the young people and other various stakeholders to discuss a way forward. Now, some of the issues that were raised during the protests were lack of jobs and high costs of living. Meanwhile, the situation in Kenya remains tense but calm, with heavy police and military presence on the streets. I'm Isabel Nakiria in Kampala reporting for DD India.
And Haitians hopeful as Kenyan-led peacekeeping mission began amid crisis. Haitian citizens taking refuge in an abandoned theatre voiced their hope for change and urged foreign countries to consider the plight of those in refugee camps as they focus on restoring national stability. While Haiti Prime Minister Gary Coney visited the base of Kenyan police in Port-au-Prince, where he doubled down on their joint commitment to regain control of the violence-ravaged country. Kenya had volunteered to lead the UN-backed force last July, but deployment was repeatedly delayed by Kenyan court challenges and worsening violence in Haiti. All right, let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A passenger train derailed in Russia's far northern Komi region, overturning carriages next to the rail bed and injuring 20, 3 of whom were in serious condition. A total of 215 passengers had been aboard. The Russian Navy missile cruiser Varyag has carried out drills in the Mediterranean Sea. The drills focused on repelling a Mars sea drone attack and also involved simulated engagements with an enemy vessel and a submarine. And North Korea had successfully conducted an import test aimed at developing missiles carrying multiple warheads. North Korea said the test was carried out using a first stage engine equipped with a solid fuel-based intermediate and long-range ballistic missile. South Korea's military said a joint analysis by South and the US military points to the missile blowing up to pieces in the initial stage. All right, and still to come on DD India News Hour. Nation pays tributes to legendary military leader Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw on his death anniversary. We tell you weather updates from various parts of the world. You're watching DDI News Hour. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj, and a quick recap of headlines. India's President Draupadi Murmu says the pledge to reform has made India the fastest growing economy in the world. Stresses today's Bharat is solution oriented. Addresses joint sitting of both houses of parliament. Peace returns to Bolivian capital La Paz after coup attempt fails. Government says army under control. Rebel army general arrested. European Union and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky are expected to sign a security agreement at the EU Council meeting in Brussels. Army Chief General Manoj Pandey flagged off a pan-India motorcycle expedition on Thursday, marking the 25th anniversary of Indian victory over Pakistan in Kargil War of 1999. The expedition serves to showcase significant contribution and honor the legacy of our brave soldiers. 3 teams of 8 motorcyclists each have embarked on this historic journey from 3 corners of the country: Tinjan in the east, Dwarka in the west, and Dhanushkodi in south. These riders will traverse diverse terrains and challenging routes, symbolizing the unity and resilience of our armed forces. On their way, the riders will reach out to Kargil war heroes, veterans, and Veer Naris who are residing at various places en route. They will also pay homage at war memorials en route, raise awareness, and encourage youth to join the army. A nation paid tributes to the legendary military leader, Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw, on his death anniversary. The Indian Army's Additional Directorate General of Public Information also paid homage to India's first Field Marshal. Headquarters of the Integrated Defence Staff also paid tributes to Manekshaw. Popularly known as Sam Bahadur, Manekshaw was the 8th Chief of Army Staff and the first Field Marshal of the Indian Army. Sam Manekshaw's career spanned over 4 decades and 5 wars, including the Indo-Pak War of 1947 and the liberation of Hyderabad in 1948. His legacy as one of India's finest military commanders endures, inspiring and future generations. A significant milestone for the International Solar Alliance as Republic of Paraguay officially became its 100th full member. Launched on 30th of November 2015 by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President of France Emmanuel Macron during COP21 in Paris, the ISA aims to accelerate the deployment of solar energy globally in support of climate action. Headquartered in India, the ISA has now brought together several countries to collectively address barriers related to technology, finance, and capacity in scaling up solar energy. India is playing a crucial role in shaping the sustainable energy future by providing renewable energy solutions to the world, especially the global south. It serves as a vital platform for international collaboration, uniting nations in their efforts to combat climate change and facilitate transition towards use of solar energy on a global scale. The Dubai Art Centre, one of city's oldest art institutions, hosts the Hunar exhibition, a captivating display of Indian folk and tribal art. The exhibition highlights the rich cultural heritage of India's folk and tribal art forms. Visitors to the exhibition can explore various artistic styles from across India, including AI pan art from Uttarakhand, Madhubani art from Bihar and Wadli art from Maharashtra.
Hunar exhibition which is based on Indian folk and tribal art, and you can see this Ramayana painting which has all 7 chapters. You can see from Balkand to Uttarkand, and this is beautifully done on canvas, and this says that this is reaching to people very easily.
All right, weather updates now. The India Meteorological Department in its latest weather forecast informed that conditions are set to become conducive for the southwest monsoon to advance further into remaining parts of West, Central and East India, along with certain areas of Northwest India over the next 3 to 4 days. The monsoon's progress is also anticipated in additional regions of the North Arabian Sea, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh and southeastern Rajasthan in the coming days. Heavy to very heavy rainfall is likely in parts of West Coast and over Northeast India during next 4 to 5 days. After a long and harsh spell of heat wave, Delhi and its adjoining national capital region on Thursday witnessed a fresh spell of showers. According to India Meteorological Department, the minimum temperature in Delhi was recorded at 28.6 degrees Celsius. In a 7-day forecast for the capital, the Met Department has forecast rain till the end of the month. The weather agency has forecast light to moderate rain in Delhi on June 29, issuing a yellow alert for the day, and moderate to heavy rain on June 30th, issuing an orange alert. Hajj deaths highlighted the difficulty in protecting pilgrims from intense heat. According to the Saudi authorities, hundreds of the pilgrims who died this year's Hajj were not officially registered with the Saudi authorities, due to which it was difficult to provide them with services and care. Pilgrims said those without permits had to walk at times in temperatures above 50 degrees Celsius, while most registered pilgrims were able to make much of the journey by air-conditioned bus. Heat-related deaths along the Hajj are not new, but climate change has made Hajj increasingly dangerous. And heavy rain in the northwestern Colombian department of Antioquia caused an avalanche. According to officials, no deaths have yet been reported, but 7 people are reported missing. The landslide was set off by heavy rains. Venecia is one of the hardest hit areas of Antioquia. Locals quickly mobilized to help clear debris and repair homes. Well, let's take a look at other stories making news. The Maharashtra Assembly's monsoon session commences today. During the session being held in Mumbai from June 27 to July 12th, the ruling Mahayuti alliance will present the state budget in both houses of the legislature on June 28. The interim budget was tabled in February ahead of the Lok Sabha elections. 2-day national consultation on legal environment assessment for One Health activities in India was inaugurated today. National Institution for Transforming India Ayog member Dr. V.K. Paul inaugurated the workshop in New Delhi. It aims to discuss issues including assess the current legal framework on identify strengths, gaps and overlaps in the existing laws and regulations. Indian Air Force IAF contingent, which participated in Red Flag exercise in Alaska earlier this month, flew back to India today. On their way back, the Air Force conducted air war drills with the Egyptian and Greek Air Forces. The Indian Air Force's Rafale fighter jets carried out complex missions along with F-16 and F-15 combat aircraft at a multi-nation mega military exercise in Alaska in the US. The Indian Parliament passed 3 new criminal laws: the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, the Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita and the Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam to replace the Indian Penal Code 1860, the Criminal Procedure Code 1973 and the Indian Evidence Act 1872. These are soon to be implemented. There are some myths related to these, and DD India bursts them for you.
enacted laws Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita and Bharatiya Saksha Act, which will completely overhaul the criminal justice system in the country, will come into effect from July 1st this year. The three laws got the Parliament's approval on December 21st last year, and President Draupadi Murmu gave her assent on December 25th. The laws will replace the colonial-era Indian Penal Code, the Code of Criminal Procedure and the Indian Evidence Act of 1872. The three legislations aim at completely overhauling the criminal justice system in the country by giving definitions of various offences and their punishments. However, the provision related to cases of hit and run by vehicle drivers will not be implemented immediately. There are several myths related to these three laws. Another myth is that the criminal laws are mere repackaging of existing provisions. However, the truth is that the new laws enshrine the concept of justice embedded in our constitution to improve the criminal justice system of the country. While the old laws were British legacies, the new laws are citizen-centric, victim-centric, and sensitive to the offences against women and children. The colonial legacy related to the sedition section in the IPC has been removed in the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023. This is a positive step addressing concerns of misuse against dissenters and critics of the government. The new laws incorporate gender-neutral language, promoting inclusivity and equality in the legal framework. Shifting from imprisonment to community service for criminal defamation aligns with modern approaches to justice, emphasizing rehabilitation and societal contribution over punitive measures.
All right, and still to come on DD India News Hour. India's benchmark indices rallied on Thursday with the Sensex breaching the historic 79,000 mark. South Africa enter T20 Cricket World Cup final as they beat Afghanistan in the first semi-final. Georgia secures historic last 16 spot in Euro 2024.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. India's benchmark indices rallied on Thursday with the Sensex breaching the historic 79,000 mark and the Nifty hitting the 24,000 level for the first time ever. Sensex jumped 339.51 points to hit its new lifetime peak of 79,013.76 after falling in early trade. The Nifty also bounced back, rising 97.6 points to hit its fresh all-time high of 23,966.4. Among the 30 Sensex companies, Ultratech Cement, JSW Steel, Reliance Industries, Axis Bank, ICICI Bank, Bajaj Finance, Kotak Mahindra Bank and Tata Steel were the biggest gainers. As a major landmark in its economic recovery, Sri Lanka has reached a final restructuring agreement for its external debt that it owes to its bilateral creditors. India has said it will continue to support Sri Lanka's economic recovery. Sri Lanka President Ranil Wickremesinghe announced signed agreements with the Official Creditors Committee that includes India, Japan and France among others, and a separate agreement with China to restructure about $10 billion in bilateral debt. India has been co-chair of the Official Creditors Committee and had given unprecedented financial support of $4 billion to Sri Lanka. The agreements will be presented to Sri Lankan Parliament on July 2nd. President Wickremesinghe said during a post-signing address to the nation. Wickremesinghe said bilateral loan payments to foreign countries will be postponed till 2028 and that country will have time until 2043 to repay them. The deals will also allow Sri Lanka to move forward with a $2.9 billion program, with International Monetary Fund aimed at ending its financial crisis.
With these agreements, we will be able to defer all bilateral loan installment payments until 2028. Furthermore, we will have the opportunity to repay all the loans on concessional terms, with an extended period until 2043. In 2023, we successfully completed the restructuring of domestic debt. Now, we have also successfully concluded the bilateral debt restructuring with foreign countries. By continuing on our current path, we are confident that we can achieve this agreement, and discussions are ongoing.
Okay, time now for sport updates, and for that, my colleague Deepika Mehto is here with me. Deepika, a very good afternoon to you. Now, are you equally excited for India versus England, like I am?
Absolutely. I think everybody is super excited for the India versus England semi-final, because it's a rematch, if you would remember, of the 2022 Cricket World Cup. So now it's time to get our viewers all the latest on the ongoing T20 Cricket World Cup semi-final stage. First up, an update from the first semi-final. A dominant performance with the ball saw South Africa pump out Afghanistan in the first semi-final of the T20 Cricket World Cup at Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Trinidad. Chasing a below-par target of 57, the Proteas dashed the way to the final in 8.5 overs. South Africa will make their first ever appearance at a T20 Cricket World Cup finale on Saturday in Barbados, with India and England now set to battle it out for other spot in second semi-final lined up for today. Earlier, a 3 for each from Tabraiz Chamsi and Marco Jansen helped South Africa restrict Afghanistan for a paltry total of 56, which is the lowest ever by a team in the history of the T20 Cricket World Cup semi-final. So the penultimate match of an engrossing T20 Cricket World Cup will see India facing England in the second semi-final at Providence Stadium on Thursday. However, heavy rain is predicted during the second semi-final in Guyana. Let's take a look at this pre-match review.
Following their impressive victory over Australia in the final group stage match, India has avenged their 2023 ODI World Cup defeat at home. Now they seek redemption against England, facing them in the T20 World Cup semi-finals at the rain-threatened Providence Stadium in Guyana. However, concerns loom over the form of star batter Virat Kohli, who hasn't had a great run in the World Cup. India have been unbeaten so far, defeating Ireland, Pakistan and USA in the group stage, with their match against Canada washed out by rain. In the Super 8 stage, they registered comfortable wins over Afghanistan, Bangladesh and Australia. This time, India boasts more batting firepower, more middle-over options and a varied attack.
We want to be a smart cricket team. We want to assess and play. It's a knockout game. We want to think about how well we can play and what we can do as a team. At the end of the day, you've got to play good cricket to win cricket game. We'll focus on how we can play this game well and get the results in our favor. That's what we'll be focusing on. At the end of the day, two good cricket teams are going to play, so it's going to be a great game. Indian cricket team goes through a very high pressure situations most of the time. This format is all about confidence. As long as you are confident in what you want to do, you are putting the right, you're putting the foot in the right direction.
But beating the defending champion won't be easy. England, just 2 games away from becoming the first men's team to retain a T20 World Cup, are a formidable opponent.
There's a general feeling that our best cricket is in front of us. I think we've been pretty good in patches. We've done some really good stuff over here, but we haven't put together that perfect game. So with a bit of luck that happens against India, it's certainly going to be a great occasion. They're a very strong unit and they present a massive challenge for us, but one that we're very excited to take on. Both teams, we're going to go out there and throw punches at each other for 40 odd overs. So it's going to be a great contest.
Meanwhile, there is a heavy rain forecast for the second semi-final in Guyana.
India and England have played 23 T20 international. Out of that, India have won 12. But they haven't claimed this tournament since its inception in 2007. Who will emerge victorious in this high-stake clash? Watch as these two cricketing powerhouses clash for a spot in the T20 World Cup final. With Person S. Jayashankar, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from Guyana.
And now sports correspondent Narayan Singh joins us to talk more on this. Narayan, a very good afternoon. When we look at this very high-octane clash between India and England, we know the fact that unlike 2022, Jasprit Bumrah is there. And if we are reminded of the 2022 clash, Virat Kohli also hit a 50. What do you think of today's clash, Narayan?
Good afternoon, Deepika. If we talk about, as you mentioned, that in 2022, it's a repeat of that match. But the situation has been changed a lot from that time. If you take a look at the Indian setup this time around, they look a bit confused with their setup. They started the tournament. We can say that they won matches, they lost matches, and they picked in the Super 8. And they also looked confused about their combination. They started with an extra batsman. After that, they bought an extra bowler. And after that, they choose a mid-path. They bought Chris Jordan. But if we talk about this Indian side, they play some classical cricket throughout this tournament. And the most important thing about this Indian team is they are not reliable to their top 2 batsmen or top 3 batsmen. If you take a look this tournament in the past, in the match against the Bangladesh, they lost both Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli early. But despite of the fact, their other A-lister down the order like Hardik Pandya, Rishabh Pant, Suryakumar Yadav, they came to the fore. And even if you talk about their other player, the Shivam Dubey, he's also looking more confident. So all in all, this Indian team is not about the few batsmen, few top-order batsmen. It's all about the team game. And apart from that, Jasprit Bumrah is a commodity that other teams don't enjoy. So we have the batsmen like Suryakumar Yadav, we have Ravindra Jadeja down the order, we have many more batsmen, and Akshar Patel, even he can do miracle with the bat at the top of the order. We have Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli. So far, he hasn't scored in this tournament. In the 6 matches, he scored only 66 runs. So we think that all the cricket fans, not only I think that the big players like Virat Kohli in this tournament, he has saved his best for the big matches like final or semi-finals. We are hoping that he will also click at the right moment.
All right. Thank you so much, Narayan, for joining us and bringing us a rounded perspective on what to expect from tonight's mega semi-final between India and England. Moving on, Kate Campbell, Australia's most celebrated swimmer, has announced her retirement from the sport on Wednesday. Now, Kate failed to qualify for this year's Olympics in Paris, and ahead of this, she announced retirement, saying that it was time to officially say goodbye to the dream that she had dreamt since she was 9 years old. She posted this on a social media platform. Now, Campbell missed out on what would have been her 5th game team when she fell short of qualification for the 100-meter and 50-meter freestyle event. A veteran of 4 Olympics, she's won 8 Olympic medals, broke 7 world records, and is one of the most recognizable faces in Australian sport. On to Euro 2024, Georgia made history at Euro with a 2-0 victory over Portugal to make it to their first ever major tournament knockout round. Portugal had already won the group, but they were shocked in their final group stage game after a massive loss. The 39-year-old Ronaldo had been looking to become the oldest player to score at the Euros, but was instead reduced to kicking the turf in irritation when he was went off in the second half. Now, Georgia completed the biggest Euros upset in history by beating Portugal based on FIFA rankings and created a night to remember in their debut major tournament. They will now play Spain in the last 16, while Portugal will take on Slovenia. On the other hand, Romania finished top of Group E as they and Slovakia reached the last 16 with an entertaining 1-1 draw in Frankfurt. Ondrej Duda gave Slovakia a 24th minute lead when he got in behind the Romanian defence to par in a header from Juraj Kuka's pinpoint cross. But both the sides showed plenty of attacking intent and Romania equalised before half-time. They finished on top with Belgium second in group with a draw with Ukraine, who were eliminated. Meanwhile, Slovakia advanced as one of the best third-place sides and could face England in the last 16. So that was a quick wrap from the world of sports. Back to Siddharth.
Oh, thank you so much, Deepika, for all those updates. The giant pandas from China started their journey to a zoo in the United States. The pandas, a 3-year-old female named Jinbao and a 4-year-old male named Yunshuan, traveled from Bifengjia Panda Base in China's southwestern Sichuan province to San Diego, California. All right. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.
Voice of a rising as